am I even a little surprised at what's going on in the general economy? No. In fact, I get less surprised every day. This is becoming pretty obvious what this is. What's an economy? Anybody who's followed my work for any length of time, if you have followed my work for the last several years, well, I've explained it on many occasions. All an economy is just people engaged in commerce. That's really simple. You don't need to have an advanced economics degree from whatever fill in the blank university. You don't have to have that. You just have to understand that an economy is just people engaged in commerce, doing some kind of economic activity. So we don't have a whole lot of that anymore. What we have right now is a handful of mega corporations and governments. Don't leave out the governments. A bunch of you, particularly, my lefty people that follow me, my commie followers, you always leave governments out of this. No. Don't leave the governments out of this. They are just as big a culprit. You have a handful of mega corporations and a handful of governments moving trillions of dollars around among each other, and everybody else is sort of along for the ride. That's really, I guess that's a type of economy if you want to call it that. But there's nothing economy about it in terms of like the people, human beings engaged in business among themselves. You used to have a barter type system that existed, and we're not talking about abandoning the monetary system, at least I don't, because you have to have a unit of measurement. Units of measurement are actually rather important, and that's how you gauge that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't abandon the idea of a monetary type system, and you're not going to by default anyway. But this isn't, whatever this is that you're seeing, this isn't the end of so-called capitalism or this is just what this is the end of. It's the end of the idea of people working for a company. In other words, trying to find somewhere to work, a job. It's the end of jobs. Mathematically, a company can only get so big. Like 4 years ago, I talked about this. You can only get so big. It can only pay out so much in dividends. It can only pay out so much in interest, particularly interest. Interest is a big one. It can only pay so much in taxes and insurance and so on before there's really no money to pay any of the labor that works for that company. Henry Ford understood this. This is why Hank Ford understood it. It's why it's like, yeah, you have to pay people enough to keep their attention and to get the quality work out of them. If your currency is not worth anything, it's going to be very difficult to find people that are going to take the job seriously, which is why I use the hypothetical. Would you take a job seriously that was paying you $185 an hour and you could show up 40 hours a week and have 2 weeks off in the summer, 2 weeks off at Christmas time? Would you take that job seriously? And the vast majority of all people, like probably 99% of people polled, said, my God, I would rearrange my entire existence around that. I would become a different person to like quite literally to do something like that, right? Yeah, most people fit in that category. In other words, there's your threshold, or that's an example of a threshold. Or you could just, take the median price of a home in your surrounding zip code and then just cut that number in half, and that's roughly what it's going to take to get somebody to take that job seriously enough to be there the whole time and not always 1 foot out the door. Right. So, put yourself in that position. This shouldn't be difficult for most people. It shouldn't, like everything I'm talking about, all this base stuff that I'm talking about, this should be really easy stuff to think about it because it's relatable. If you get a job someplace, you're like, okay, I'm just here for a little while, until I find something better, right? How many of you watching this video are in that frame of mind where you're like, I'm just here long enough until I find something better? Yeah. Probably, like, if I had to hazard a guess, probably 90% of people watching this video right now, standing there looking at you, looking at me, you're in that position. You work at your job only as long as, like, man, I got to find something else, right? Whether it's gig economy and what have you. So you're always 1 foot out the door. You're always looking for something else. That means by definition, you're not taking everything that you're doing right now 100% seriously. You can't, right? Okay. because you're always going to keep your eyes open for some other opportunity. But if you're paid enough money, well, then it's like, hold on, it doesn't make any difference what the job is. A young man was doing a video, he was talking about GameStop, which I thought was a hilarious video. Not because of what happened to him, stuff with the whole GameStop trade, anything, including like anything. Anything is a big word, dude. That's they didn't think that through. But there's a young man, he was talking about this. He says, I don't really want to be at GameStop because I want to do other things. Like, well, hold on a second here. The reason you want to be at GameStop is because GameStop doesn't pay you enough money to do the stuff you want to do when you're not there. Right? I mean, the reason you do work is to get what you want outside of work. Your goal isn't to just do work forever. Like, no, I'm going to find some kind of work that I want to do that I really like. Why? No, I mean, like the reason that you do this is, I'm talking to men predominantly, mostly men follow me. Some women, but like mostly men follow me. Men do work that other people don't want to do or can't do, one of the two. And they're paid enough money or some kind of transaction. There's a transactional nature. It's so that you can afford to go do what you want to do. That's it. Okay? No different than the hunter-gatherer thing. Nobody wants to wake up in the morning and go track a deer with a pronounced limp in its front left leg for 4 days to get food. Nobody wants to do that. Right? You do it because, like, it sounds fun. It sounds fun because your life isn't on the line. Right? I mean, for you hunters out there, it sounds fun because your life's not on the line and you probably have more than enough fat reserves, just like me, on your body to go for the next 90 days and you're probably fine. Right? That's true for everybody. It's true for most Americans. But now let's put yourself in your position where your life depends on it. And all of a sudden it's not fun to track that deer with a pronounced front limp on its left leg, for 4 days to try and get, food because there's not a whole lot of game around and, or the game's been hunted to near extinction. Right? Okay. So you're going to do some work and you're going to do things you don't want to do. That's welcome to the human experience. This must be your first day if you didn't know that. Okay. Welcome to your life. There's no turning back. Right? So understand all of that when you have an economy like this, yes, it's locking up. That's what you're seeing. On the ground level, you're like all the small businesses, tons of guys I know, they're all small businesses. They're in the same boat I'm in. They're all going through the same thing. Everything's locking up. They can't move enough product. The prices are screwed up. The prices that they have to charge to do something, no one can afford. I have several potential customers like that. I have several customers that would be buying stuff from us right now if the price what it was what it was 5 years ago. But because costs have gotten so out of control because of all the money printing and inflation, which it's all it is, money printing and inflation. But because of all that, it's priced people out of the market. No different than real estate. Real estate's the exact same thing. Real estate, once it goes beyond utility value, forget it. It's just not worth it any longer. You can keep doing this for a while. All real estate now is just a bunch of boomers selling houses to each other and moving around. That's all. It's money moving around the board. There's no actual activity. There's nobody really doing anything. It's the white label marketing, right? You have a you don't want to manufacture anything yourself. God forbid you actually do something, right? God forbid you actually make a product in this country. All the U.S. makes is bad decisions. It doesn't really make anything anymore. So no, God forbid you make a product, but if you actually made a product, well, then you have to have, the reason you make the product is because, I presume, is because there's a market to sell it to. But if you don't have that market, or if it's too far outside of price is too far outside utility, no one's going to buy it. This is like common sense. Like none of the stuff that I've been deliberately trying to not get into like hyper technical stuff. I've been doing that for like the last 2 years. I've been really trying to do that because I'm just trying to explain the common sense part of this. Because I'm convinced anybody can understand the common sense part of it if they're just living their life. And they're looking around and you pay attention. You go, oh yeah, hold on. Who the hell is buying all this stuff? One of my neighbors was talking about that. Like, who is paying $7,500 a month in mortgages? Who the hell, where are you getting this money? When you look at the median incomes. Yeah, a lot of it's facade. I'm convinced that a lot of that it really is. I think a lot of it is just becoming facade.